21 natural disaster locations identified involving state and federal roads. Facilitation Act acceleration of investments remain a priority. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I am Olivia Nicholas. The Works Ministry, or KKR, has identified 21 locations across 7 states that were affected by natural disasters as of last Friday. Its Minister Dato Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said the locations involved 8 state roads and 13 federal roads in Johor, Pahang, Kelantan, Perak, Terengganu, Kedah and Selangor.
Jadi yang itu banjir 4 kes dan cerun runtuh 10, jalan runtuh 4 kes dan jalan mendap tak ada lah. Di jembatan rosak runtuh 3 satu di Temelung, di Dungun dan juga di Bali. Kelantan tak ada.
He said this after inspecting the construction of Federal Route FT008, Section 258 of the Lingkaran Tengah Utama LTU Expressway project near Palo today. On the construction of the LTU Expressway, Dato Sri Nanta said the project is on schedule and has reached a progress rate of 58%. He said so far there have been no major problems except for some issues related to land acquisition. The minister added that his ministry is committed to resolving these issues promptly and ensure that the project remains on track for completion by 2027. The federal government has allocated 225 million ringgit for the implementation of the Essential Goods and Liquefied Petroleum Gas Distribution and Community Drumming Program this year. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Dato Arimizan Mohamed Ali said the program would be conducted in 6 states, namely Sabah, Sarawak, Kelantan, Terengganu, Pahang and Kedah. The 7 items involving in this program are white rice, sugar, wheat flour, cooking oil, liquefied petroleum gas, RON 95 petrol and diesel. Through the program, the government will bear the cost of transportation to deliver essential goods to selected rural areas.
Objektif terasnya ada 2. Pertama yang saya sebutkan tadi, untuk kita memastikan masyarakat di kawasan pendalaman juga mempunyai akses kepada barang perlu dan barang kawalan dalam harga yang sama. Yang kedua adalah dari segi kestabilan bekalan.
Dato Armizan said the ministry is working on improving the implementation of the program, which involves 3 aspects, namely procurement procedures, control mechanisms and study compliance, as well as recipient community targeting. This can help to ensure that the objectives of the program are met, benefiting the target groups in line with the targeted subsidy policy under the Madani government. On another note, Dato Arimizan said the Enforcement Division of his ministry has opened 88 investigation papers in connection with alleged Umrah package frauds. He said that on 22nd of December last year, a group of consumers claiming to be victims of Umrah fraud lodged a report to the Enforcement Division in Putrajaya and several other states. The complaint was about the company's failure to make restitution as ordered by the Tribunal for Consumer Claims, Malaysia, to the affected victims.
Kuasa kita bekerja hujung tahun sehingga awal tahun ini, immediately kita melaksanakan siasatan yang telus, yang terperinci dan saya boleh maklumkan bahawa pada hari Selasa ini ada satu syarikat yang berpengkalan di Putrajaya telah pun diberikan notis untuk proses pendakwaan di mahkamah.
Dato Arimizan said the issue of fraudulent Umrah cases under his ministry is related to the consumer aspect, while the licensing aspect, criminal elements and others are under the jurisdictions of other ministries and agencies.
must take risk in forging new economic future. The Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry is committed to facilitating and accelerating local and foreign investments. According to its Minister Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz, this includes the investment, trade and industry sectors.
Kita nak fokus sekarang tahun 2024 ni kepada execution juga. Ya, sekarang one is the amount that is committed, the other one is the amount that approved. And now amount yang nak realise, ya, itu penting. Dan kita kena membuktikan kepada rakyat yang apa yang telah dijanjikan dan dimeterai dalam perjanjian juga mestilah direalisasikan. Dari segi perdagangan, dia macam banyak usahawan-usahawan kita ni yang berjaya di Malaysia, tetapi kita perlu beri bantuan untuk mereka berjaya juga di luar negara. Bukan senang, ya, bukan senang kerana competition is tough.
The minister also said the Invest Malaysia Facilitation Centre, IMFC, is also ready to help and speed up investment projects in the country. He said the IMFC housed representatives from several relevant agencies to help fast-track projects involving both local and foreign investors. On the setting up of the IMFC, Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul said that this was in line with Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim's call for the efforts to boost efficiency, cut bureaucracy, ensure speed in approval, and to look at ease of doing business to further attract investments. In a related development, Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul said Malaysia must be willing to take calculated risk in forging a new economic future for Malaysia, especially in the digital and green economies, to make investment and trade the key drivers of economic growth. He said this is one of the points being focused on by his ministry, or MITI, this year, which also includes properly executing the national plans. He also said that looking back at 2023, it was an important year for MITI in forging a more resilient, inclusive and sustainable economic future for Malaysia on all fronts: investment, trade and industries. The minister noted that the most sustainable outcomes will always take time to execute, but like it or not, external changes will happen and all relevant parties must make sure Malaysia's industry is ready sooner rather than later, and MITI is staying the course. Tengku Dato Sri Zafrul also stressed that Malaysians must adopt moonshot thinking, an attitude that pushes individuals to firmly believe in achieving something seemingly impossible, such as radical solutions using disruptive technology and approaches to solve seemingly insurmountable problems. Ultimately, he added that the goal is to strengthen Malaysia's economic future, where youths have jobs with decent wages and companies are profitable. Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad has introduced the Ihsan Sustainability Investment Account ISIA to deliver a positive social and environmental impact through social finance.
Simultaneously, ISIA is designed for clients seeking stable short-term investments to navigate the uncertainties often associated with equities and fixed income investments. Group Chief Executive Officer Datuk Mohammad Muazzam Mohammed, through a statement released today, said ISIA reflected the bank's commitment to advancing prosperity for all. ISIA is available for high net worth individuals and non-individual investors with a minimum investment amount of 50,000 ringgit for individuals and 1 million ringgit for non-individuals respectively. ISIA offers an indicative 4.5% return per annum, where 2.5% portion of the profit will be contributed to Pusat Pungutan Zakat Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan or Bank Islam Sadaqah House. ISIA is the pioneering investment account designed to offer investors access to environmental, social and corporate governance (ESG) or Sustainable Development Goals (SDG) aligned financing assets curated to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, objectives and favourable climate change and principle-based taxonomy classification as per Bank Negara Malaysia's framework.
Trading on the ringgit is expected to remain cautious next week, with all eyes on major data points such as the US non-farm payroll NFP data, which will be critical for ringgit US dollar performance.
Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad Chief Economist Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid said the trading of the ringgit would be tentative next week. Elaborating further on the matter, senior Muhammad Afzal Nizam said, should the NFP turn out to be better than expected, the ringgit should stay weak next week, possibly around 4.65 ringgit, which is quite near its immediate resistance level. Meanwhile, SBI Asset Management Managing Director Stephen Innes said economists anticipate around 170,000 jobs to be added. A too-strong report could be a setback for the local currency as it would dispel near-term rate cut expectations for the second half of 2024. Conversely, he said if the report aligns with or falls slightly short of expectations, it may reinforce beliefs in an imminent rate cut, potentially sparking a rally in the ringgit. For the week just ended, the local note was traded lower on the expectation that higher for longer interest rate narratives are likely to persist.
Bursa Malaysia is expected to trend higher next week, moving in the 1,470 to 1,500 range on persistent optimism for the local bourse.
Rakuten Trade Ikuti Research Vice President Tong Pak Leng said, fueled by favorable market indicators, the FTSE Bursa Malaysia KLCI FBM KLCI is forecast to remain above the 1,465 level for an extended period. A threshold is struggled to maintain several times last year. From a technical view, the benchmark index posted 4 consecutive white candles and moved away from all the exponential moving average EMA lines, signaling a continuation of the ongoing uptrend. Meanwhile, SBI Asset Management Managing Partner Stephen Innes said this has been a good week and was quite busier than expected for Bursa Malaysia as it diverged from the global downtrend. This contrast occurred amid indications that optimism about US rate cuts was diminishing, coupled with the release of softer global purchasing managers index data. Innes added that the local bourse seemed to be charting its course independent of broader market trends.
The crude palm oil CPO futures contract on Bursa Malaysia derivatives is expected to trade with an upward bias next week, given the expectations of low output as well as rebound in export demand.
Palm oil trader David Ng said currently palm oil are in seasonally lower production and the recent floods in certain key growing areas also affected output. However, China may resume buying of CPO ahead of the Lunar New Year next month. Hence, traders expect prices to move between 3,600 ringgit and 3,820 per tonne next week. Ng said the Malaysian Palm Oil Board report, which gives the actual December 2023 supply and demand preview, will be released on the 10th of January, as well as export estimates are among the key report data expected for next week. This week, CPO futures traded mixed, influenced by the movements in soybean oil prices on the Chicago Board of Trade, export performance and stockpile level in the country. On a weekly basis, January 2024 gained 28 ringgit to 3,690 ringgit per tonne, but February 2024 fell 20 ringgit to 3,675 ringgit a tonne. March 2024 decreased 39 ringgit to 3,682 ringgit a tonne. April 2024 slid 47 ringgit to 3,671 ringgit a tonne. May 2024 retreated 59 ringgit to 3,649 ringgit a tonne. And June 2024 dropped 60 ringgit to 3,615 ringgit a tonne.
Toyota Motor has decided to restart its Japanese vehicle plants in the country tomorrow. However, given the impact of the New Year's Day major earthquake, the automotive company would decide separately about operations from 15th of January.
As aftershocks are continuing from the magnitude 7.6 quake that ravaged Japan's western coast, and many of its suppliers and their affiliates are in affected areas, Toyota said in a press release today that it would use parts in stock outside those areas. Toyota President Koji Sato said on Friday the company was seeking to understand the supply chain situation after supplier Esin and Sumitomo Electric suffered damage from the tremor. According to Industry Minister Ken Saito, as of Friday, some 80% of 200 companies with plants in the quake-hit areas had resumed production or would resume soon. Toyota, which has its headquarters in Toyota City, Aichi Prefecture, was the world's top-selling automaker in 2022 for the third year running, shifting more than 10.4 million vehicles.
According to a data released today by the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, or SAFE, China's forex reserves total 2.238 trillion US dollars as of end of December 2023, rising by 66.2 billion US dollars or 2.1% compared to the end of November.
Compared to that of the end of December 2022, the data showed a rise of 110.3 billion US dollars, a 3.5% increase. The forex reserve scale of China remained stable with a modest increase throughout the year. According to SAFE official, the US dollar index declined last December due to impact from factors like the monetary policies and expectations of major economies, while global financial asset prices generally rose. The exchange rate conversion and changes in asset prices resulted in an increase in foreign exchange reserves in December 2023. According to the official, the sustained and improved performance of China's economy and the country's high-quality development are expected to provide support for maintaining a basically stable foreign exchange reserve scale.
Hong Kong's Cathay Pacific Airways will cut a dozen flights a day on average until the end of February in the move to avoid cancellations as the busy Lunar New Year travel season approaches.
Cathay had to cancel some flights over the peak travel periods for Christmas and the year-end because its operations were stretched. The company said it had consolidated on average 6 flights pairs per day for the rest of January and February, focusing on routes with multiple daily frequencies where possible. The carrier also said it had reviewed its flight schedule and increased the number of pilots on standby to avoid disruption in coming weeks. Cathay, which said in November it intended to recruit 5,000 more staff during 2024, had pruned employees drastically in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and changed staff contract terms and conditions. Last month, the Hong Kong Aircrew Officers Association, which represents some of its pilots, said Cathay's passenger business had 58% of the pilots it had before the pandemic. In a November briefing to analysts, Cathay dropped a goal of rebuilding to pre-pandemic levels its cargoes and passengers capacity by the end of this year. The airline said in October, passenger capacity was 62% of 2019 levels and cargo operations were at 79%.
Investors' hopes are running high to start 2024, which could set up stocks for a rocky stretch if some expectations are not met.
Despite a shaky start to the year, the S&P 500 stands only around 2% below a fresh record high, and most investors have maintained a rosy view on everything from the U.S. economy and corporate profits to the Federal Reserve's monetary policy trajectory. The latest BofA Global Research Survey released last month showed 66% of fund managers believe the economy will achieve a soft landing in 2024 and only 15% expected a recession in the next 12 months, a sharp contrast from a year earlier when 68% of investors expected a recession. Bets on easier monetary policy have gone hand in hand with the soft landing outlook. Futures tied to the Fed's policy rates show investors pricing in around 140 basis points of interest rates cuts this year, nearly twice what the central bank itself has projected. Not surprisingly, many investors have a positive outlook on stocks. The American Association of Individual Investors survey showed bullish sentiment rose to 48.6% in the latest week, a notch down from its recent peak in December, but well above the historic average of 37.5%. Those views have been shaped in large part by tangible evidence of cooling inflation, a comparatively strong economy, and the Fed's own guidance, after policymakers surprised markets with a dovish pivot last month.
U.S. regulator orders inspections on Boeing MAX 9 planes. That and more coming up in our foreign segment. Bangladesh was voting in an election guaranteed to give a 5th term in office to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina after a boycott led by an opposition party. Polls were opened until 5 p.m. local time, with results expected after midnight.
Hasina has proceeded over breakneck economy growth in a country once beset by grinding poverty, but her government has been accused of rampant human rights abuses and a ruthless opposition crackdown. Her party faces almost no effective rivals in the seats it is contesting, but has avoided fielding candidates in a few constituencies, and apparently efforts to avoid the legislature being branded a one-party institution. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party has called a general strike and urged the public not to participate in what it calls a sham election. But Hasina called for citizens to cast their ballots and show their faith in the democratic process. Early signs suggest the turnout would be low despite widespread reports of carrot and stick inducement aimed at bolstering the poll's legitimacy. 2 hours after voting began, only 111 people had cast ballots out of nearly 4,200 registered at one polling station in Dhaka West.
Britain is planning to spend £300 million on a new program to produce advanced nuclear fuel suitable for the next generation of power-generating reactors, seeking to dislodge Russia as the main international supplier.
Britain was one of over 20 countries, including the United States, France and South Korea, that recently signed a pledge to triple global nuclear capacity by 2050 as part of international efforts to cut climate-damaging carbon emissions. Britain said its new investment would help support domestic production of high-assay low-enriched uranium, a type of fuel currently only produced on a commercial scale by Russia. Like other European nations, it has sought to cut its energy reliance on Russia since President Vladimir Putin's forces invaded Ukraine in February 2022. The Energy Security Department said the launch of the program will enable the United Kingdom to supply the world with specialist nuclear fuel and further isolate Putin's Russia. The first production plant is scheduled to be operational by the early 2030s in the northwest of England. Further details on production targets and how the money would be spent are due to be set out in an as yet unscheduled strategy paper.
The U.S. air safety regulator said it was grounding some Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets pending inspections a day after a panel blew out of one of the planes over the western state of Oregon.
The Federal Aviation Administration is requiring immediate inspections of certain Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes before they can return to flight. The agency said that around 171 aircrafts worldwide would be affected, with each inspection taking 4 to 8 hours. Alaska and United Airlines fly the largest number of MAX 9 planes, while Icelandair and Turkish Airlines have smaller fleets of the aircraft. Boeing has so far delivered about 218 of the 737 MAX planes worldwide. US-based Alaska Airlines grounded all 65 of its Boeing 737 MAX 9 planes on Friday after a flight carrying 171 passengers and 6 crew was forced to make an emergency landing, with the National Transportation Safety Board saying a sealed over-door panel had opened and come off mid-flight. Alaska Flight 1282 had departed from Portland International Airport and was still gaining altitude when the cabin crew reported a pressurization issue. The plane quickly returned to Portland and there were no major injuries.
Mexican authorities are investigating the cartel-related killing of 5 people in the southern state of Guerrero after a non-governmental organization first reported an attack in the area involving drones and explosives.
The prosecutor's office said that it had initiated an inquiry into the attack on a group of 30 people in the town of Buena Vista in the Heliodoro Castillo municipality. The office said the incident stemmed from the confrontation between the criminal groups La Familia Michoacana and Los Lacos, who are in a dispute for control of the area. The human rights NGO Minerva Bello had first reported on Friday an attack in the area using drones and explosive devices the previous afternoon. Later, agents of the Guerrero prosecutor's office were able to establish the existence of charred skeletal remains corresponding to 5 people in a burned-out car. However, the bodies were taken away by the residents of a neighboring community and the officials only found the vehicle. Guerrero is one of the poorest states in Mexico and is used by drug cartels to grow marijuana and poppy.
Next up in sports, Muhammad Shami wants to make his presence count in the Asian Cup 2023. Harimau Malaya defender Muhammad Shami Safari has vowed to seize the opportunity of representing the country in the Asian Cup 2023 by putting a sterling performance in the tournament, which begins on the 15th of January. He said it is the dream of every Malaysian player to play in the prestigious tournament, and he will help the national team put up a strong challenge.
The 25-year-old player also said head coach Kim Pangon had been putting them through high-intensity training since their arrival in Doha, Qatar on the 1st of January. Muhammad Shami said this is to ensure that they can cope with the playing style of Asia's football giants.
Coach pun ada bagi tahu yang beberapa hari ini kita training dalam intensiti yang tinggi lah untuk orang cakap adapt dengan situation game yang sebenar. Jadi rasanya semua pemain memang bagi komitmen 100% lah orang cakap untuk bukan ini untuk kebaikan untuk rakan-rakan yang lain jugalah. Terutama kita dapat tingkatkan momentum dalam pasukan itu sendiri.
Malaysia, who ended a 42 weight to qualify on merit for the Asian Cup, will begin their campaign in Group E against Jordan on the 15th of January, following a Bahrain on 20th of January and two-time champion South Korea on the 25th of January.
Johor Darul Tazim JDT have confirmed that prolific striker Fernando Forestieri is leaving the club. JDT expressed their gratitude to the Argentine, who spent the last 2 seasons with the Southern Tigers, on their social media pages today.
JDT wished all the best for the Forestieri and thanked him for his contributions to the Southern Tigers since joining the club at the start of 2022 season. The forward was part of the Southern Tigers squad that won a historic double quadruple in 2022 and 2023. He scored 47 goals and made 21 assists and 69 appearances for JDT. Forestieri's departure does not come as a surprise, as JDT are undergoing a financial restructuring exercise that aims to reduce club spending by up to 40%. Adil Zafar Razak, S. Kunanlan, Hazwan Bakri, Adam Nur Azlin, Leandro Velequez and Diogo Luis Santos are also leaving the club. The coaching staff is also being trimmed, with head coach Esteban Solari, Rodrigo Barrios, Antonio Matios, Antonio Gavilan and Dr. Leandro Pinero are confirmed to be leaving. Solari will be replaced by former JDT coach Hector B. Doglio for this season.
And that concludes this edition of Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, 21 natural disaster locations identified involving state and federal roads. Till then, I am Olivia Nicholas. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching.